Good evening, Broncos country. Let's give it a moment for the stream to breathe. Make sure we have all of our platforms included for tonight's conversation. All right, and looks like we are good. Welcoming everyone to another installment of the Orange and Blue View. I am one of your co-hosts, Ron White. We flip sides tonight here, Dylan. So on that side of me is my partner in crime. You know him as Dylan Von Arks. Dylan, how are you doing today on this, well, at least hot where I am, Saturday?
I'm doing great, man. This is my third podcast this week. So if you're not sick, if you weren't sick of me last night, you'll certainly be sick of me after tonight. um, but yeah, it's good to be here and talk some more Broncos football with you, Ron.
Cool. So yeah, let's get to the chat and see who we have here coming in. Some hellos.
Let's see. David popping in
We
as
got
always.
David Youngkin. Thank you, David, for coming in. Just waking up to say have a great show. Thank you, my man. You know it's always good to have you in the chat. We appreciate it. And we got Daniel Berry Sports Highlights coming in. Hey, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you as well, Daniel. Hopefully you are doing well, my guy. Good to see you in the chat. And we got C Chain coming in. Thank you. Says, what's up, Broncos? Happy Saturday. And what a hot day. Yes. Yes, here in Georgia. Well, Georgia stays hot with the humidity, but I think it's a high of 95 today here in Georgia. So it's crazy.
Oh,
And
geez.
MBL X Test Prep coming in saying, I'm here to party. Well, we're here to party with you. We're going to get the gang together and have one big Broncos party. It's going to be a great conversation. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. And we got the man, the myth, the legend. Not so much a myth, but definitely the legend, Mr. Ronk in the house. Thank you, Mike, for coming in. He says, good evening, Ron and Dylan on Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos. Again, Mike, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, Mike, always good to see you in the chat. And we know you're going to have some good questions for us, hopefully, here in just a few minutes.
Yes, for sure. All right, let's see who else we have coming in the chat. Adam Strange coming in. Of course, we're all Broncos maniacs. So what's up to you, Adam? We appreciate you coming in, my man, as always. Good to see you. Good to see you. And we got Todd Alstendorf coming in. Hello, Ron, Dylan, and Broncos Country. Hello to you as well, Todd. Hopefully you are doing well. All right. So tonight's topic is going to be an interesting one. I'll let Dylan kind of speak to it because he had the article. Again, you guys make sure you check out Dylan's great article on milehighhuddle.com. But this is regarding one of PFF's latest rankings as it pertains to the Broncos wide receiving room. So, PFF has their own opinions, obviously, on what they think um, the Broncos wide receivers are. How can they step up? Who can step up? Who can't? So, Dylan, since you have the article, I'll let you take off on this one.
Yeah. So when I set out to write something on this ranking, first I was like, oh, I see the Broncos. They're listed 30th. Let's see what this is about. And not much to glean. I can even just read you the snippet here because that's all it is a snippet. So we have the Denver Broncos at 30, and it goes as follows. Jerry Jeudy is no longer a Bronco, so it's Cortland Sutton's room to command. The team brought in Josh Reynolds and drafted Troy Franklin to find their wide receiver too, and Marvin Mims can be a great deep threat option. Denver got good receiving production from the running backs last season as both Samaje Perine and Jaleel McLaughlin earned receiving grades above 80 in 2023. Now, when you have to bring up your running backs as like the high point, you're not necessarily in that first bit, they're kind of just listing, oh, here's what the depth chart is, which, oh, okay, sure. Not much to glean from it besides saying, hey, Sutton's one, two guys are fighting for maybe second, and then Mims being a potential threat. But going straight to your running backs is after that is not something you really want to see. You'd hope maybe you get a tight end in there, but as we know, the Broncos weren't looking too good in that department last year. Very pedestrian, if you will. But as for the teams ranked, just right above them, I have the top. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have the top 5 ahead of them with the Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Jacksonville Jaguars. What are your thoughts, Ron?
Yeah, so you and I talked about it a little bit, before we went live. But the fact that they even brought up Jerry Jeudy has me losing all credibility with PFF. As if Jerry Jeudy was some savior or number one in the first place. Kind of how they start this off. Jerry Jeudy is no longer a Broncos, so therefore Courtland Sutton has to command. So Courtland Sutton commanded the room last year. I mean, he was the receiver that led the team in touchdowns. So, that statement alone kind of really rubs me the wrong way. And, Josh Reynolds is a veteran in the league. And I like the addition of Josh Reynolds. I think Josh Reynolds and Courtland Sutton does provide you some experience and some veteran presence. So I think with those two alone, now again, are they elite? Are we talking the Jamar Chases of the world, the Justin Jeffersons of the world? No. But I think with those two alone, I think this is a pretty, average, maybe even above average wide receiving group. Now, I do agree in the sense that, Marvin Mims has to step up. Now with the departure of Jerry Jeudy, he can assume that wide receiver 2 role. And we're hoping for big things from him. And obviously with Troy Franklin, he's a rookie, but the potential is there for Troy Franklin to, to take off, especially with, as we're presuming, Bo Nix will be the starter. So, looking at this, I don't necessarily agree too much on it, especially with, the fact that they don't think that Sutton can command the room. But I do agree that, folks like a Marvin Mims, they have to step up. They have to step up. Now, we can also, looking from the running backs. I mean, that's correct. A lot of that production we saw coming from Samaje Perine last year. A lot of those dink and duck passes. And, Samaje Perine can definitely still be that utility in the passing game. And Jaleel McLaughlin can too. So I think given those factors with a Sutton and a Josh Reynolds, I think 30 is too low on this list. And you said it, like looking at the teams above the Broncos, Dylan. I mean, the Panthers have a bunch of rookies. I mean, Xavier Legette, that's heavy on Sanders. I mean, and for the Giants, outside of Malik Neighbors, who do you really have? I mean, Darius Slayton. So, you're looking at some of the folks that came before the Broncos, I don't have much faith in them either. But, again, with Sutton, Reynolds, hopefully this team can take off.
Yeah. So in my article, I mentioned how since PFF didn't really take a stance on the ranking necessarily, they placed them there. I tried to give them a little, good grace. When it comes to PFF, my thing is I think they're very good at compiling data. It's when it comes to the grading and ranking, that's where I don't really love them. Like if it's just like accumulating stats, I'm like, great, cool. That's the stuff I can look at and make informed opinions off of. But when it comes to like opinion pieces or rankings, not so much. But I'd have to think that the ranking has to do with the Broncos wide receiver room right now being a lot of potential rather than substance in terms of we haven't seen Marvin Mims explode on offense yet. Obviously, he was great on special teams, and that's undeniable. Can't take that away from him. But it's a lot of projection, I think, on Broncos country's part, because I know there's a lot of reason to be excited, and you should be about this wide receiver room. But when you look outside of Cortland Sutton and Josh Reynolds, there's not really a. I mean, I like Josh Reynolds a lot. I think he's a solid player. Cortland Sutton obviously had a great year last year, but then you look, Marvin Mims, like I mentioned, hasn't proved anything on offense yet. We're waiting to see that this season he could possibly explode. But right now, potential is the big word. Troy Franklin, same thing. Young guy, rookie. How many touches is he going to get? He's looking at to be the fourth or fifth receiver on this team, depending on how Tim Patrick looks or whoever else they decide to keep. Maybe a little Jordan Humphrey, but a lot of unproven, I guess I would say. And then you look at the Panthers and New York Giants, like you mentioned. I think you could argue to be ahead of both of those teams. I do really think Adam Thielen is doing a lot of the heavy lifting there for the Panthers. The rest, like you mentioned, they do have some rookies that I like, but again, that's another thing. Potential. We haven't really seen anything yet. I really like Jatavion Sanders a great deal. You know, they got Chuba Hubbard there. And for the New York Giants, I mean, yeah, you look at Malik Neighbors, that's a great pickup by them, and I think he will. That's where you can kind of see, hey, you know, maybe it is just potential, but you kind of know this guy's going to be really good. But Wan'Dale Robinson looked good in spots. Darius Slayton looked good in spots as well. But and then you look at the tight end position, not a whole lot there. So I maybe I'm giving them a little too much grace, but I think it's more of like a projection of what we haven't seen yet, and they're not concerned about potential necessarily. That's the only way I can rationalize it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Dylan. You know, when you look at how this list is constructed, um, you know, a lot of the names PFF's mentioning are rookies. You know, as you get, I would say, past the top 10. You know, they have the Raiders at number 17, and you know, outside of Devontae Adams, of course, he's proven in the league, obviously. But who else do you have? I mean, they mentioned, of course, Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers. So with Brock Bowers, we know what he can be. And so you're looking at that from a potential perspective. And even with the Jets, now the Jets kind of already had an okay wide receiving core, but now they bring in a Mike Williams. Now, obviously, he's going to be coming from that torn ACL. But again, I'm just kind of looking through the list, and that actually does seem to hold. But I mean, I guess I'm just looking at it from the sense of, you know, you have a veteran there in Sutton, and that should be, you know, good enough to. Again, I'm not saying the Broncos should catapult all the way to the top. No, but I just think 30 is a little very disrespectful. You know, maybe in the mid 20s, I can see. You know, just because Sutton, you know, when the Broncos went on that run last year, Sutton was the biggest reason why. Outside of the defense, right? We know that the defense and the takeaways that contributed to it, obviously. But you know, if Sutton wasn't healthy for those games, who knows where the Broncos would have been record-wise? So I guess I'm looking at it just from that perspective of, you know, giving Cortland Sutton a little bit more credit. But yeah, I'm with you that the other folks have to step up. You know, Marvin Mims, you know, we saw what, you know, he can be. And just hopefully Sean Payton can use them in certain packages for sure.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned, it's kind of hard for me to say they should be too much higher. Like I mentioned, I think you could argue maybe over the Panthers and the Giants, possibly the Bills if I look at but they have two really solid tight ends in Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And then you go even a little higher with Pittsburgh. I'm a big George Pickens fan. I think he's good. Pat Freiermuth is a solid guy there. Quez Watkins, I think, is a little underrated. Roman Wilson, they drafted, is pretty good. And you go even higher to the Panthers, another big cat team, the Jaguars. Travis Etienne's a great receiving back. You got Christian Kirk. Gabe Davis is a little spotty, but he's been solid for sure. Then you draft Brian Thomas and then add in tight end Evan Ingram. It's kind of hard for me to put him. I think 27 might be right around where they sit, around where the Buffalo Bills are. But it's hard for me to find too much wiggle room. But I do agree. I don't think 30 is a great spot for them to be at.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. Between 25 to 27 was kind of my target.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You mentioned the teams. Pittsburgh, Pickens is a beast. The Bills, even with the departure of Stephon Diggs, they still have two great tight ends. And so I think they actually Gabe Davis is gone too as well, correct?
Yeah, he's with the Jaguars now.
Jaguars, yeah. So even with that departure, you still have quite a force there at tight end, at least from a pass catching perspective. But yeah, again, we'll see how it shakes out now. Maybe with a new quarterback, you will see some of these wide receivers have more of a household name, like a Marvin Mims, potentially like a Troy Franklin. But we'll see what happens.
Yep, definitely. And we have a couple of stars here from our good friend, Phil McLaughlin.
Oh, Phil. Thank you, Phil, for coming in. We appreciate you, my guy. Says, good evening, Dylan and Ron. Let's face it, we have a bunch of unknowns. These players with a new just like I said, quarterback could surprise a lot of people. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag MHH for life, hashtag Broncos for life. Yeah, Phil. Again, I wouldn't say. I would say a bunch of unknowns. I mean, again, Courtland Sutton isn't an unknown. Josh Reynolds isn't an unknown. Now, I know Josh Reynolds, this will be his first year with the Broncos, but I would say those two for sure have definitely made a name for themselves in the NFL. But the others, if we're talking down the depth chart, wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3, with the Troy Franklin, the Marvin Mims, you're right. Those are the receivers that have to prove themselves. And to the point I just made, I think you and I share a brain here, Phil, that with the insertion of Bo Nix, they can take off. So hopefully that happens, but we'll see how it shakes out, my guy. Thank you for coming in, my man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. And yeah, we'll have to see how they play with Bo Nix, especially you're going to be able to work over the middle of the field, something we haven't seen in a couple of years, which will be nice. So maybe you get some more production of the tight ends. Obviously, you're going to get some quick throws out there, some screens. So maybe you get Marvin Mims working his magic there, or Josh Reynolds even,
or Lucas Kroll even.
Lucas Kroll, yeah, we've heard some good things at OTAs, and hopefully he turns out to be something, because tight end is pretty rough, and obviously it's only OTAs, but Peyton was giving him a good amount of praise, so hopefully we can see some more production there out of our tight ends.
Sure. Yeah, the tight end position, I think we all know we also have high hopes for Dulcich. We really do, but it's just, every minute we see as though something going on with him. So I'm not too positive leading into the season, but we'll see. But yeah, you're right. Lucas Kroll has, from what I've been hearing from camp, has taken off, has looked very good. So hopefully him with Troutman, that can at least be I'm trying to be optimistic here with y'all, man. Hopefully that can be, let's just say it, Dylan, be good enough
Definitely.
for the tight end position. And Dennis Miller coming in. We love broken tight ends. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we do love our broken tight
We
ends here,
do.
and it's pretty rough. I'm hoping to get some guy at some point, whether it's free agency or the draft, that can just stay healthy for a full season, and be just productive enough to keep this offense flowing, especially with a rookie quarterback, or even going into the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we got Riptide coming in with super chat. Thank you, Riptide. Says Brandon Johnson's my sleeper at wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how Brandon Johnson takes off in this offense. I mean, I don't. I just don't. He can be a sleeper Riptide for sure. I just don't know. Again, with Troy Franklin here now, and with Marvin Mims assuming that Jerry Judy role with Josh Reynolds and Cortland Sutton, I'm just not sure if we'll see Johnson on the field enough to take off. But I see where you're going. If he does have more playing time, he can definitely, um, kind of be that sleeper wide receiver. Because when he was on the field last year, even the year before, he was good. I like Brandon Johnson, but let's just see. Again, I'm just looking at it from a depth chart perspective, and I'm just not sure if we'll see enough of Brandon Johnson here on this field, given where some of the others are on the depth chart.
Yeah, and that's the point I was going to make. I do like Brandon Johnson. He's got a skill set similar to a Cortland Sutton, not as talented in my eyes, but he's got some jump ball ability, and he's a bit taller guy. But like you mentioned, where are we going to see these touches? Because like you mentioned, Cortland Sutton, that's going to be your number one. You got Josh Reynolds, you brought in Marvin Mims, and you got Troy Franklin. It's really that fifth guy. I'm hard pressed to figure out who's even going to be that fifth guy. Is it going to be Little Jordan? Because at most, I think you're carrying 6 wide receivers, and you might even just stick with 5. And like I've seen or talked with Eric and Lance both about this. Maybe you keep 5 receivers and the rest are on the practice squad, and depending on your matchup that week. Oh, do we want a little more speed? Let's bring up Jalen Virgil for the game. Oh, we need another big body. Okay, let's bring in a Brandon Johnson, a little Jordan Humphrey. It's really hard to say. It's just a lot of unproven, and maybe it's like, yeah, we'd like to get these guys some touches because let's get them some touches because we need to develop them and see how they do. But look who's in front of them. Who are you taking touches away from? Really an injury is kind of I don't want to say that's the only way, because I hate injuries, everyone does, but that might be the only way you see some of these 5th and 6th guys getting play time.
Yeah, you're right on, Dylan. And I'm going to say now, looking at the Broncos depth chart, I think they're going to carry six wide receivers. And right now, I'm going to be Sutton, Reynolds, Mims, Patrick, Franklin, and Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
Would be the 6 now. Now, again, you're hopefully, the Broncos stay away from the injury bug.
Yeah.
You have to pray and hope there. But that is the only way that you'll see some of these other guys, like a Brandon Johnson. They may even bring in Belay, for a few snaps, depending on, if someone or a few get injured, knock on wood. But I would say they're going to have 6, and those are going to be the 6 leading into the season.
Definitely.
Ooh, Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Thank you, Phil. Says, by unknowns, I mean they haven't played with this QB, and it's a second year in this offense with Peyton. Hopefully, Dulcich Patrick Crawley Center also step up this year. Yep, thank you, Phil, for providing more context for this. But yeah, you're right on that. Yeah, Josh Reynolds hasn't played yet with Nixon in this offense. Obviously, well, Mims has, but again, Mims kind of just needs to step up a little bit more. But yeah, you're right. I definitely agree that the other wide receivers, second year in this offense with Peyton, they need to kind of form that relationship, kind of get that familiarity going. And if that happens, who knows? The sky's the limit. But yeah, you're right on that. I think I agree with you here with kind of the additional context you provided. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's definitely an unknown. Obviously, you hear all the things coming out of the draft. Bo Nix quick early. I mean, here you see him too, obviously. Bo Nix quick with the ball out, really heady quarterback, all these things. He's still a rookie, so we'll see just how the pressure and the speed of the NFL game changes how he plays here and there. I do really like Dulcich. I wish he could stay healthy because there's those few games me and Lance talked about last night, like the Chargers game when he got that wide open touchdown. I think it was on the first drive.
That Jacksonville game.
Yep, that's the big one.
I remember that one drive. I think I was talking with a chat about it last week. Like that one drive, it was just Dulce's drive. I call it the Dulce's drive. So, I think it was every play Russell was just finding him open. So, but yeah, like you said, once if Dulcich can stay on the field because he's such a gifted pass catcher when he's on the field. He can create the mismatches, but again, he's got to be healthy. That's been his bugaboo.
Yeah, and you see like just that extra element in the offense and how no one was really worried about the tight end from us before, and once he got on the field, it's like, oh, this dude's wide open. Oh, his long strides, he's outstepping linebackers and safeties like we haven't seen from a tight end forever. And having a good tight end, you could take some pressure off some of your wide receivers because they're like, oh, we can just lock down Sutton because we don't have to really worry about anyone else. No one else is really stepping up. So yeah, it's a real shame, and hopefully Dulcich can turn things around. But with injuries, you never really know. Let's see. I'm just gonna grab this real quick. Dylan looks like he just woke up. He's definitely a sleeper. I'm messing with you. Yeah, I actually, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I do work. I wake up for work at 3 a.m. So it's pretty late in the day for me. That's for work too, not just because I'm staying up all night gaming or something. And as my hair gets a little longer, it's a little harder to control, and I don't really like, those solid hair gels. It just gets sticky and weird, and it's just not for me. So I got the permanent bed head for sure. Let's see. Man. Here. Oh, Mike Ronquillo hopping in.
Oh, Mike. Thank you for hopping back in. He says Broncos need a number 2 wide receiver behind Courtland Sutton if he is still here with the Broncos. Yeah, Mike, I agree that they need a consistent wide receiver too. And again, that's where I think we're all hoping that Marvin Mims is that guy. Again, Jerry Jeudy's gone. Marvin Mims can now, take hold of that wide receiver 2 role. And you can use Marvin Mims in so many different ways, Dylan. Jet sweeps, screens. He can do the middle of the field, the deep shots. So I think if he can step up, and we saw that a little bit last year, early on in the season, where that game 2, again, that game 2 against the Washington Commanders sticks out in my head. That was kind of his coming out game in a way where, that big threat ability, that big play threat ability was there. So again, Mike, the Broncos definitely need a wide receiver 2, a more consistent one. And I'm hoping, and I think I can speak for a lot of people, that we're all hoping that Mims can really assume that position and step up for sure. Thank you for coming in again.
Yeah, thanks, Michael, so much. Yeah, totally. Marvin Mims was mentioned by Sean Payton. I almost said George Payton. Too many Paytons on this team. But he was saying, the main reason that Jerry Jeudy or Marvin Mims wasn't getting touches because Jerry Jeudy was in the role that was envisioned for him, and hopefully he gets more touches there because he's got that speed. Something this offense has missed for so long. Like, and it's been missing a lot of things, but explosion and speed is the big one. And if Mims can develop his route tree, because he can't just be a go route guy, he can't just be doing gadget stuff. It works for a little bit, but you're going to need to step up as that number 2 receiver.
Yep.
And if we still have a problem, maybe if Mims doesn't step up, and hopefully he's not just a special teams guy, that'd be terrible to use a second round pick on. Maybe it'll change with the special teams rules. Maybe that will be more valuable, but you don't want him just to be a kick returner. And if wide receiver continues to be a problem this year, expect it to be a high priority in the next year's draft, which I don't even want to think that far yet. But if I was talking about it last night, it's tackle, edge, and wide receiver. Those are probably the top 3 needs for the Broncos next year. But we're going to focus on the here and now.
Yes, got to focus on here and now. And I mean, again, this upcoming season will be not only the year of Bo Nix, but just how Bo Nix and these new wide receivers, how they gel. What's that chemistry looking like? Because I agree with you on the need, again, not to focus too much on, the next year's draft, but
sure.
I agree with you on the needs moving forward. But if these folks can step up as we're wanting them to, like a Mims, like a Franklin, like a Vele, right? Whenever he is enfolded in the offense, then that would make that wide receiver less of a need, maybe not much of a need at all.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what happens. But yeah, I'm with you that, Mike, that we have to see it consistently. If we can see Mims step to the plate consistently, then we can start to maybe identify him as that number 2.
Definitely. And I'll grab this before I get to this question. I look like Paxton Lynch. Man, that's, if it pertained to his height, I'd be pretty cool with that. But yeah, I think since I trimmed down too, I kind of got the mustache and a little bit combo that he had. So I guess that's warranted. But anyway, we'll get to his comment here.
They like picking on you, Arts. Man, they love picking on you here in the chat. Oh, you guys. You're funny. All right, Keith Roman coming in. Thank you. Dylan and Ron, the biggest name that won't make the roster will be. Ooh, that's a good question.
I got mine.
You go first, and I'll have to ponder as you
Michael Ronquillo actually put his name right here, Javonte Williams.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's super likely, but maybe Aldrich Estime, and I just sent in my piece for camp battles for running back, so check that out when it drops. But Aldrich Estime mirrors Javonte very well, but I think he has better vision, and that's probably the big thing. And fresh knees is a problem there for Javonte, because coming off that injury, obviously he played last season. No one expected him to. We talk about that a lot. But how is that going to look going forward? Is there a higher chance for re-injury there? I'm sure. Estime could definitely take his spot, and say maybe you want to keep a P. Ryan around. He has some receiving ability. Didn't do amazing in the run game, but maybe you could stomach. It really depends on how Estime looks in camp, but maybe you could stomach losing Javonte, because let's remember, guys, I know George Payton drafted him, but Sean Payton doesn't give a damn about that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking Javante. I'm thinking it's going to be someone in this running back room for sure. Well, I was going back and forth between Javante and Jaleel, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead and say Jaleel. That's just me. But I can see either or not making this roster just because I think the biggest sleeper is Blake Watson. I mean, Blake Watson. What the clips I've seen, Dylan, from what I've been hearing in camp, that guy is just so explosive, so quick, so elusive. Like he can just do everything. Just a versatile back. And I think with those traits, it's like, well, what do you need a Jaleel for? So you think about that. Now again, not to take anything away from Jaleel because what we saw Jaleel last year was great. Jaleel is a great player, but again, he has, and I know he talked about it himself, how he has to improve in a number of areas, especially when it comes to blocking and things of that nature. Um, but from what I've seen from Blake Watson, I just the guy is just so explosive, and with that skill set, it's like how can you leave him off the roster? We have it's Audrey Estime, Blake Watson, Samaje Perine, I think is still going to be on. I think they're probably going to keep what you thinking, maybe like four backs. Um, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Jaleel, but yeah, I can either see a Javante or a Jaleel not making the roster. Somebody in that running back.
Yeah, I could definitely see Jaleel not making it. And something else needs to be mentioned about Blake Watson. He's got kick return ability.
Yep.
And he holds up a little better in pass protection. So that might edge Jaleel out there. We'll have to wait for camp, but there's a real competition there, folks. And don't be surprised if Jaleel's not on the roster. As much as I like him a lot, but jobs are earned.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Got Mike Edo coming in. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you, my guy. It says, good evening, gentlemen, and Broncos country. I love our young wide receivers. PFF always has an opinion. I would love to see what they said about the 97 Broncos. I'm still super glad Russ is gone. Yeah, Mike, again, thank you for coming in. And I like the wide receivers for the Broncos as well. I like the youth. Again, it's just going to be a matter of if they can be consistent. Especially again, I'm looking more so who's going to be that wide receiver two, who's going to step up to assume that role. Are we looking at Mims to do that? Maybe Mims struggles, and maybe Troy Franklin comes on the scene. So again, that's going to be kind of the big question that needs to get answered here. But yeah, I would say I like the other folks. Like we mentioned Brandon Johnson, we mentioned Devon Vele. So I think with those pieces, with Bo Nix, I think this has the potential to be something. And your opinion on PFF, I think that's everyone's opinion, right? That PFF always has an opinion. It's trash. I was talking about it. It was just trash, especially this one. And it would be curious to see what they said about the '97 Broncos. I mean, they probably would have had something negative to say about that wide receiver team, that wide receiver core. But we know what that wide receiver core represents. So their opinion definitely would have been invalid for sure. And I think we're all glad that Russ is gone. Again, I think everyone wishes Russ well in Pittsburgh, but the marriage just didn't work out between him and Sean Payton. Now Sean Payton has handpicked this guy, and the Broncos are going to move forward with Nix, and hopefully with this quarterback and this receiving core and the other weaponry around him, Nix can succeed. Um, but yeah, thank you for coming in. All great comments, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I agree. I do really like a lot of our young receivers, and there's a lot of potential there. And we talked about potential before, but I'm also someone who's like, hey, I want to see substance. I don't want just sizzle. I want steak. Okay, like
Yes.
it, in our fandom, obviously, and it happens to all of us. We get really high on these guys, and you know, a lot of people have potential. Drew Lock, we talk about potential with him all the time. Jerry Judy, potential, potential, potential. What did that amount to? And I'm not saying to be down on these guys, but let's like temper expectations a little bit, and I'm just trying to see like where these outlets are coming from, because like I mentioned before, PFF great for compiling data. When it comes to opinions, I could care less. Um, but it is a thing of like we haven't seen it yet. So that's the real big thing, and camp can't come sooner. I'm ready to see these guys out on the field and performing at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Mike, again. Again, Mike, thank you. I
Wow.
think consistency will come with quarterbacking, and you hit the nail right on the head, Mike. That's that is paramount to consistency with the entire team. So if the quarterback can be consistent, you should start to see consistency with Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. Because again, with Bo Nix, from what we've heard, well, what we've seen it at Oregon, but from what we've heard so far, in rookie minicamp and the start of the OTAs, he has looked sharp. He has looked sharp. He's been very accurate. Ball placement has been good. He's making great decisions. So obviously, collectively, that is consistent. Again, I know it's only the off season, but I think that goes a long way heading into training camp and heading into the season. So if Bo Nix can stay on that trajectory, that'll make the entire team better. But you're absolutely correct. I think we all know that consistency at quarterback is paramount in this league.
Yeah, and hopefully having the right quarterback for Sean Payton's system, we'll see that consistency. Obviously, Russell Wilson was not a good fit with what Sean Payton wanted to do. He actually had to really scale back his offense for him.
Yeah.
Especially when you can't throw over the middle of the field. That's terrible. Like that takes away a lot of what Sean Payton wants to do with his offense. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what Bo Nix can do. I've only heard good things. Obviously, there's you hear a lot coming out of it's just OTAs. I don't want to get too riled up about it, but it's like, oh, Stidham was doing the best and Bo looked good at times, and then maybe a little lower at times, but nothing too extreme either way. It's not like he's looking like Drew Brees out there, or he's terrible, should have never taken it. We're not getting that, at least. So I'm happy about that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and this kind of adds on to what we were talking about from Phil here. If we can finally get the short game going, looks like a totally different offense. The quicker the ball is gone, less pressure on the O-line, and that's a big thing. Obviously, Mike McGlinchey isn't an all-star or anything, but when Russell Wilson's holding the ball back there forever, what's the outcome except he's going to lose his guy? And I think, and I don't even think this is a hot take necessarily. Maybe it is, but I think you could see Garrett Bowles get into the top 10 tackles conversation with Bo Nix at quarterback, or even Stidham, just someone who's going to get that ball out quicker and on schedule, because you can't be holding the ball as long as Russell Wilson did, or spinning or running right into into a defender. That is not the way to run an offense.
Yeah, thank you, Phil, for coming in, and I agree. I agree that the short game is going to be important for this offense. Now, again, I think the Broncos, whether it be Stidham or it be Knicks, they have the right quarterback, to operate that short, quick passing game, throwing the ball over the middle of the field. So yeah, the quicker the ball is out the hands, the less you're right, the less pressure on the O line, so the less time they have to kind of hold up. And that's not a far fetched statement what you made, Dylan. That Bowles can, because well, I think he's already top half of the league when it comes to tackles anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
with Knicks or Stidham, he can definitely catapult up into that top 10 position when it comes to tackles. Mike McGlinchey, on the other hand, is a different story. Hopefully, with better quarterback play, he can be a little better. But only time will tell with McGlinchey. But yeah, I agree here, Phil. You're absolutely right. And this is a staple again. Two staples of the Sean Payton offense: the short, quick passing game and throwing over the middle of the field. And with Russell Wilson last year, he couldn't do any of that because Russ just held the ball way too long. Again, a lot of those sacks, Russ was the culprit himself. So now that you have a quarterback, well, again, one of these quarterbacks can just get the ball out quick. That will be a tremendous help for this offense.
Definitely. And Dennis Miller comes and just go back to the tight end position here really quick. The international rugby player we got at tight end, that is Yasmin from Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm going through all most of the position groups when I'm doing these camp battles. I think I'm not much there for tight end, but the most I could see is a swap at the fourth tight end. Maybe Nate Atkins could get unseated, and Yasmin could be the guy there. And we need some more dogs, whether it be on offense or defense. And I think Yasmin could be that, coming from a rugby background. He just wants to smash people. And that's something that's been missing here. I think the only guys on the offense that really bring that is Garrett Bowles and Quinn Miners on the offensive line. But let's get some guys at skill positions to get out there and make some plays and just be a little bit evil,
Yeah, be aggressive. Be that dog. Go get up and get the ball. That's again, we're really just missing that big beast that can just catch the ball in the middle of the field consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully with Yasmin Nassim, he can be that. But I can definitely see that, Dylan, where he unseats like an Atkins, for sure. I can see that. But yeah, I don't disagree with you, Dennis. That's not a bad idea for sure. The guy is very athletic. The guy is very athletic, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting with the new special teams. What kind of bodies we're going to see used? Because it's are you going to need many corners and wide receivers out there? Because do you necessarily need gunners when you're going out there kicking the ball? You might be looking for more linebackers, safety types, guys that can shed blocks. And maybe Yasmin could be there. I know maybe receiving or returning kicks, you could see some different guys back there. Obviously, Mims, Blake Watson, or Jaleel. I'm sure there'll be something to them there, but we'll have to see, especially when we get down the roster cut down. Special teams is going to be an interesting spot for sure.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, the chat looks like it's slowing down here a little bit. If you guys have any more questions, please start getting them in here. We're going to wind it down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll have our boy close us out as always.
Mr. Ron, thank you. Great show tonight, Ron and Dylan on Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos. Again, Mike, thank you for coming in tonight. Thank you for coming in just about every night. we appreciate the love and support, my guy, as always.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, thank you all for joining Orange and Blue View. It was a great conversation as always. Some great questions coming in, and just make sure we'll get a few orders of business here. Make sure to follow Mile High Huddle on Twitter. We post all our articles there, podcast, what have you, and the same for Facebook. And as well on Instagram, we have some live shows going up there. And obviously, you want to look your best. Get some MHH merch. Get your swag on, guys. Come on. And obviously, super chats, stars, those are all nice. But at the very least, we ask that you subscribe, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, what have you. Like the podcast, like our articles, and share them on every platform that you possibly can. Any last words, Ron?
So again, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. We appreciate the love, the support, the questions, the comments, as always. And we will see you. Oh, also make sure you follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm at Ron White NFL. My partner in crime there is at Dylan Vaughn Arts MHH. And again, just tweet us, ask us questions, comments, send us some clips. We'll provide our analysis when we receive it. So yeah, make sure you do that if nothing else.
Yep, and thank you to everyone, all the Super Chat superstars and Facebook star contributors, Michael Ronquillo, Phil McLaughlin, Rip Dye, Mike Edel, Keith Brugman. Thank you guys so much. You guys keep the lights on, and it's just a nice gesture from you guys. We greatly appreciate it, and I think that's going to do it for us on Orange and Blue View. Thank you guys so much for watching, and go Broncos.
Go Broncos.